Welcome back to the She Surfs Here podcast. I'm Audrey, your host, and I'm super excited today because we've made it to 2 episodes. I still feel super nervous and awkward, like I need a shot of tequila before the interview, but the good news is today I have a really fabulous guest for you, and that is Gee Cormack from Chix Surf Coaching. Gee is an amazing surf coach who works with mostly women and is really able to explain body mechanics and help you make little tweaks to make your surfing much better. She also helps women build confidence in the ocean. And she's going to talk about all that in this episode as we deep dive into improving your surfing, into boards, and a whole bunch of other cool stuff. So have a listen and be sure to share this with a friend who might be into it. All right, we finally have Gee on the She Surfs Here podcast. We're so excited to have you here, Gee. How are you today?
I am fabulous. The sun is shining, which is always a bonus. It has been so wet and rainy, as you know. So yeah, it's shining outside, which is good. I've just done some on land training and baked some bread and got a cup of tea and I'm ready to have a chat.
And where are you?
I live on the mid-north coast of New South Wales in a small little town called Bonny Hills. It's actually where my family originally comes from. So yeah, I moved up here just under 2 years ago, officially, growing up on the northern beaches, in a range of spots on the northern beaches. But yeah, I'm now in this tiny little town, which I absolutely love. It's got an amazing little surf community, amazing little country community here as well. Yeah, I'm loving it, loving the simple life.
And great waves up there.
Yes, we do have a variety of really good waves kind of in this stretch of coastline. So we've got, Crescent is 45 minutes north and Scots and all that sort of stuff. And then just south of us, we have, Blue Boomerang, Foster, and then Little Nooks all the way up. And then we've got our own little hub here that has a really good variety of waves for all different levels. So, and all different ages, it's awesome. Bonny is awesome for the grommies and that kind of rolling wave. And then we've got some spots in near here that have just got a punchier wave. So it's super fun.
Yeah, we had some fun. Yeah, and we had some fun was it last year at North Haven when we did the nationals there.
Yeah. So I think it's been held here. It was held here for a couple of years. Yeah, and North Haven was pumping last year and the year before. So we got really good barreling waves. So
Yeah,
super fun.
It was a bit scary.
Yeah, I know. It was a bit daunting. It's like, do I pull in and get absolutely throttled or do I just kind of stay on the outside and do a couple of turns?
So for those of you who don't know, Gee is a level 4 surf coach, runs her own surf coaching business out of Sydney and the mid-north coast. It's called Chix Surf School, aims at women surfers. Tell us a little bit about Chix.
Chix has been around now for 11 years, which is awesome. I started coaching in 2007 on the south coast, just about 3 hours south of New South Wales. And yeah, I wanted to open up a space where women and young girls could find their relationship with the ocean, I've grown up surfing, so I've surfed pretty much my whole life. I did have 12 years away from the sport when I was competing at a higher level with snowboarding. And then when I had some injuries and was forced to retire, I came back to surfing and just wanted to use my skills as an athlete and my experience in the discipline and mental knowledge of being an athlete, and also using my, I guess I'd say comfortableness with being in the ocean and just providing that really solid foundation for women and young girls to feel like they had a space out in the water and learn to find their own language out in the water. And so I thought that was missing in the market then. And it's something that I'm really passionate about. So Chix is really about the education, really focusing in on the education. And through the education, we build a knowledgeable space where we can find our rhythm in the water. And I find for women that process really works. I do coach a lot of men outside of Chix Surf School, and I work with a lot of different platforms, coaching facilities and high performance centers and stuff like that. But that method of coaching is very different. But the Chix is where my passion is.
And did you find there was just a massive gap in the market for women's coaching in Australia? I'm sure worldwide as well.
When I first started coaching in 2007, after a little while of coaching, I was the only female at the time at the surf school that I was at. I didn't know any other coaches. My partner at the time had gotten a job as a surf coach. I did notice that a lot of the women felt more safe with me and felt less judged and felt like they could kind of I don't know, fall and make mistakes and all that sort of stuff and not feel so insecure. And I think after a little while of coaching, I did ask my boss if I could maybe trial just having a girls group as an option within the surf camp because it was a surf camp style. And he was really supportive with that. And it just allowed me to dabble into that concept of how do I shift my language and my physical presence as well for women. The guys I did find, I mean, I was very young at the time. I was like 20 or 21 or
Yeah.
something. I did find that the guys would generally brush off what I had to say or wouldn't listen. And I'd have to be a lot more forceful. So I did have the nickname at my old surf school was Drillsy because they'd say I was like a drill sergeant, just really get angry at the guys. And that's where I learnt to whistle because guys would just get washed out in the water and I'd have to be a lot more forceful. Whereas I found the girls to be a lot more timid and really wanted that nurturing and that explaining before going in the water. And I liked that space. I liked the vulnerability that women had. And I felt that they saw me as a strong and safe space. And that's where I first dabbled in the concept. And then I did notice that there were no other female surf coaches. And a girl did come into the school who became a really good friend of mine. And she was a really good surfer. And that was great to have another female. But it was a missing market. And it was well before this push of women in the water.
Yeah.
11 years ago doesn't sound like that long ago, but in this movement of women in surfing, it was well before you would see women in the lineup. So that movement only really happened about 6 or 7 years ago. So yeah, I wanted to dabble in that concept and just see what I could create.
Yeah, I feel like I used to teach surf lessons in San Diego, and there was that many women that would come and be like, my boyfriend tried to teach me to surf, and now I hate him.
Totally. I actually created a couples session because of that reason. I had so many women call me up and be like, either my brother tried to teach me, my dad tried to teach me when I was a kid, my husband or my boyfriend tried to teach me, and it just ended up a right disaster. And a lot of the time, the guy would end up really, really frustrated, and the woman would end up actually quite scared or uncomfortable in the water. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So in Walks
that's always
G, that's when you come in.
that's where I come in and I'm like the translator for the two of you because you've got like my mum gave me a really good analogy once because I was trying to explain to women why, yes, their husband might be a really good surfer, but why is it that they can't actually teach very well the foundation, what I like to call the foundation in surfing. And my mom said to me once, she said, okay, think of it like language. You can speak English. And I was like, yes, of course, English is my native language. And she said, okay, would you know how to teach someone how to speak English? And I said, no, I wouldn't even know where to start.
Yeah.
And so surfing is the same concept. For someone that's grown up surfing, it's really hard to actually teach someone else the foundation because it's such a natural thing for them. And so they're trying their best. And the person that's learning, generally the female in this story, just ends up so lost and so frustrated because they don't see what the other person is seeing. And they end up in really dangerous situations and they hate it.
Yeah. It's like an automatic thing, like speaking English is automatic. And for us, now surfing is automatic. And it's hard to teach that if you haven't like broken it down.
Yeah. And really at the end of the day, what you're trying to teach is the understanding of the variations in your environment. Actually teaching someone the foundation in surfing, as in like the technical components of what my body needs to do to learn to paddle, to pop up and hold that position is very easy. Anyone can do that. But actually teaching the understanding of the variations in the environment is extremely complex. And that's where people get stuck because you and I naturally see these things. It's what we've grown up with. But to break that down, break that natural thing down is really, really difficult.
Yeah, I think, you and I both have girls, daughters that are following us in the water. And I always think about,
Girl gang.
they love it. And they they get so much surf knowledge from just following us around, and they don't even know
Yeah.
they're getting it. They have better wave positioning because of just following us around, so it's
Yeah,
crazy.
totally, totally. Yeah, yeah, which is great, but then for them to try and teach their friend, they're gonna really, really struggle.
No, no. Um, so your background in Olympics, like Olympic development, snowboarding, I think that you're really incredible at body mechanics, and there's probably not very many people that can match you because of the snowboarding, the smooth starring, and now like doing your own course and all that. What came from that Olympic development with snowboarding that you've translated into how you surf coach?
So, yeah, the experience as a developing athlete has been such a key component to me getting into the coaching side of things. And I think when I started coaching, it did really allow me to see the positive effects of being an athlete, because there can be quite a few negative effects of being an athlete. It is extremely isolating. It's very, very hard mentally. You have to be on the ball 24 hours a day. You can't fault in ever thinking that you're not going to be the best and blah, blah, blah. All those different factors are generally what break people as athletes. And some of us love it. I really thrived in that space because it kept me focused and allowed me to use that energy, which I had as a younger person, could go into a negative space or could be utilized in a really positive way. But as I got older and started coaching, what I found was and this is general, so we always have to be careful when we're speaking about men and women, because this is general. There's always differences, and not everyone's the same. But generally speaking, in coaching, I have found that women hesitate a lot. There is a lot of self-doubt and negative judgment. I like to say that experience of when I'm coaching guys and I'll be like, "Oh, how was it?" And they'll go, "Oh, the conditions are so shit out there today." Whereas in women will go, "Oh, I surfed so badly out
Oh
there
yeah.
today." And you're like, "No, the conditions are really bad." And the conditions might be good, but the guys will be like, "Ah, no, the surf is shit," because they won't, they do have that confidence. That confidence is such a key component to our ability to progress. If we want to progress in something, we actually not only have to have the knowledge, the education, we have to have that self belief that we can do it. If we don't have that self belief, we're actually never going to achieve what we're trying to achieve, because we have to step out of our comfort zone. And as you know, we've got to fall a million times before we get it. So
Oh man, you're
that's,
preaching to the choir. We had this conversation yesterday with Valentina, my daughter. We were at the
yeah,
wave pool and she's trying to surf the intermediate level and having a really hard time with the takeoffs. And I was like, you got to just go out there and believe that eventually you're going to get it and just fall and get worked over and over and over. You can't come in and pout and be mad and throw your surfboard. You have to just keep going. At some point, you're going to get it and you're going to stick through all the wipeouts and the drag around the wall to get there, you
yeah.
know?
And that's the thing, like, I think there is that component of not giving up. I do like to say that with men, generally speaking, that, they can fall 10 times, and through that falling 10 times, they learn how to solve the problem. With women, they don't have and in the sport of surfing, they don't have that self-confidence or that physical confidence to fall 10 times to learn. So they want the information first. And normally once we fail 2 or 3 times, we struggle to push past that. And that's a common pattern that I've seen throughout the many, many years and so many different countries that I've coached in, this common theme with women and young girls. And that's why we customize things. But what I found as an athlete was we had to have that real belief that we can do it, and that we had to kind of shut off any self-doubt that we had and just do it, like kind of shut the bullshit out. And so that's what I try and do in my coaching is I am that voice. And as a lot of you know that live on the northern beaches, you can generally hear me when I'm in the water. I'm a very loud presence, but there is actually a reason for that. I need to overwrite the mental game that's going on in women's heads, and I need to be loud enough to shut that off. And that's why I am generally quite loud in the water, is I need to actually push through that self-doubt barrier, which is so predominantly there.
That's so interesting. I mean, I feel like, yeah, it's so common, and I think the wave pool is a really good, like, just, like, micro glimpse into because you can see everyone's brains being like, "Man, I suck, and I fell again," and you can, like, literally watch people having that, and, like,
Yeah.
to know that, like, you're using your loudness and your advice to, like, try to override that and push people through. I mean, that's, like, one way of doing it, but, like, what else can women do when they're having that, like, failure and wanting to give up over and over and over?
Well, it's really good that you spoke about Valley's session yesterday because I was at the wave pool like a week ago with my older daughter Aaliyah, and she was there with her school. They were doing a school. She's in the surf team, and she did the intermediate session, and then she was doing the advanced turn session for the first time. And I think she fell for the first four waves, absolutely got nailed. And the same thing as Valley, that hesitation, that self-doubt, the whole body language changes, their ability to commit to the paddle that's required to lock onto the wave shifts, they respond later, or, and all these things have an effect. So she was like, waved me because I'm trying so hard not to say anything. So I'm just filming her and I'm like, no, I'm not going to coach you. I'm just going to be your mom and support you. And she kind of waved me in to go up the wall and was like, what is it I'm doing wrong? Because she didn't want to give up. And all the adults that were there were getting smashed as well.
Yeah.
And I said to her, you don't be distracted by where everyone else is taking off. You need to stay focused on your surfing, your paddling ability, what you need to do physically to be able to lock onto this wave. You're getting distracted by the people around you. You're observing where they're taking off. They're
Yeah.
3 times your size. I mean, you know what? Aaliyah is
Yeah.
tiny.
Yeah.
And so she needs to sit in a different spot. She's been working on her pop-up, doing that quick pop-up. So, she's got a bit of vulnerability there. And so we repositioned her. And I just said, shut everyone else out. You listen to the water and you find your common pattern on where to take off. And I did say, look, you need to take off a little bit wider
Yeah.
so that you have a little bit more space to be able to get the rounder part of the wave. Also, something that's unique with the wave pools is that I find in those more advanced settings, the wave does push you towards the wall.
Yeah.
So as you take off, it's like your board kind of gets pushed towards the wall. And so you need to angle even more to the side and not just think about going left. You need to physically be going left. So having your body looking left, have your board pointing left, dropping your shoulders down in an accelerated paddle, and then lifting your chest as it goes hollow. And then she then made the next one.
That's
And,
so good.
she almost didn't make it. She kind of stood up and,
And they're like, "Oh,"
"Whoa," like,
in the lip.
yeah, and rode it all the way. And then at the end was like, oh my God. Then everyone after that she made, and she just was able to shut everyone else out. But like Valley, four takeoffs or 5 takeoffs or 3 takeoffs, and you get smashed, your self-confidence is
Goes
gone,
down. She was,
you
oh,
know?
yeah, you could just see her just, like, so deflated, and I was out there with her, and I'm like, I took a wave in, and then she was just, like, so upset. She went and sat in the corner, and I was like, "Okay, like, we need to come back and with a new plan." So that's really good
Yeah.
to
And
hear.
it's probably hard for her to see as well, you then make the takeoff, and so she's like, "You don't get it," sort of thing,
Yeah.
I think one difference was that I wasn't in the pool. This was the first time I wasn't in the pool with
Yeah.
her, and so I was like, "You know what? You gotta figure it out. I'm not in there. I cannot help you." And that moment as well for her really built up this deep, deep pride after that
Yeah.
session where she went,
So
I
happy.
actually did that. I didn't give up and I achieved what I wanted to. So that was a really big, big stepping stone for her.
That's so good. That's amazing. We might have to get you to come down and help Val.
She's ripping.
She is ripping, but she's having the intermediate takeoffs. I mean, if anyone's been to urban surf that's listening to this, and I think pretty much now everyone's going to wave pools, it's like a very difficult takeoff. Even if you are an advanced surfer, sometimes you
Yeah.
fall. And it's just,
Yeah.
it sucks up. You have a concrete wall, you have 17 people watching you, and it's intimidating. And so it's something that I think that, probably you've coached a lot of women in the pool mainly dealing with the standing up part, which is only like a small fraction of why you're there. Like you want to do turns. So it's wild.
Yeah. And what I like about the pool as well, I think so many people do have such a negative experience at the pool at the beginning. And what I try and say to people to not let them feel defeated by it is all it highlights is our lack of adaptability. Right. So imagine we're going to a new surf spot. We drive up the coast or down the coast, or we go overseas and we go to a new surf spot. It's about relying on my foundation skills. We have, depending on what level we are, I like to set some foundation skills that we know we can rely on no matter where we are, no matter what we're doing. And we want to be able to then create the ability to adapt to that environment. And urban surf is such a unique environment. And what it highlights is people's lack of ability to be able to adapt. And that's really frustrating. But that should be a motivational tool where we go, okay, it's not about giving up. It's about going, what is it that this wave, urban surf is just another wave. It's like surfing a point break or surfing a hollow beach break to a really fat wave. I find really fat waves super frustrating because I got to slow everything down in the sense of, the takeoff is so round and you got to change your turns and blah, blah, blah.
There's no
Whereas
power.
I like, yeah, there's no power. I got to use my legs more, but adapting to that is the challenge. And that's, if we can look at the pool in that way, it is a training tool. And if we can adapt to it quickly, then we can bring that skill set into all different environments that we're in.
That's very true. I mean, I think even like at a professional level, when you see or even, on a competitive level, when you see the really great surfers can surf in any conditions, whether it's small and 1 foot and slop or pumping and big, that's that adaptability. Like they really mastered that and they can go into anything. And I'm always like, I hate surfing small waves in competitions because it's hard. And, the better you are at that, the more competitions you're going to win and the more waves you're going to enjoy riding.
But how many people frequently will look at the surf and be like, oh, you know, 1 to 2 foot, I'm not going to go out. And I'm like,
Guilty.
well, that's your rookie error there, because a good surfer, like I always ask people when I'm first coaching them, I say, what kind of surf conditions do you surf in? And the most common thing with intermediate surfers is they go, oh, I don't really surf anything under 3 foot, maybe 2.5, but yeah, I don't really surf anything under that. And they'll normally say that as a confidence thing, like that tells me how good they are,
Yeah.
right? It actually does the opposite, because if you can't surf those small grovelly waves, that's when you need to rely on your body more, because the wave doesn't provide it. And so if someone's like, oh, doesn't really matter what it is, as long as I'm on the right board, I can pretty much have fun in anything. That's when I'm like, okay, we've got a really good surfer here, because they know how to utilize small surf and they know how to use their body in small surf, and they know how to utilize the bigger surf, which is, yes, physically in managing the energy of the waves is really hard, but that kind of 3 to 4 foot when you're on it is quite fun, because the wave has so much energy. We can kind of sit back on that a little bit.
Yeah. So when you get someone new like that comes up to you and they're like, bro, I only surf, 3 foot and above. Like, how do you assess someone, and decide what they need in terms of coaching?
Well, ask them a couple of key questions. So yeah, obviously, what kind of surf do you like to surf in? When you're in that surf, so when the surf is really good and you're feeling comfortable, where are you struggling? And most intermediate surfers will talk about not having enough energy in their top turns, or I'm not getting the spray that I want to be, I want to be able to do,
Where's
I
the
want to do
buckets?
buckets, I don't want to throw teacups. And so that will always give me a pretty clear understanding that it's generally in their ability to customize their speed generating for the wave, and they probably don't have a solid bottom hand turn. Now, intermediate to advanced surfers are always wanting to focus on the top turn. That's where the joy, the release, all that energy, and the, what everyone sees. Oh yeah, you did a sick turn out there.
Yeah.
So that's what they focus on. But the thing is, it's like eating a cake, right? So eating a cake is like the top. It's the end result of all the hard work you put in before that. But making the cake doesn't look glamorous. It's the final presentation of the cake looks glamorous. One of the most important components to surfing is speed generating. And I will always assess people's speed generating before I do anything else. Because without speed generating, we are not able to match the rhythm of the wave. So we're not able to move in time with the wave. And it tells me that if you want to do turns, you're not able to create more speed. Now, when we think about it, generating speed is working with a wave, yeah, because you're pumping up and down in time with the wave. And you either come all the way out and do a cutback, or you do your snaps and whatever other maneuvers you want to do. Now, when we're doing a turn, we're actually not working with the movement of a wave. We start to kind of work against it, right? Because we're now going up and down with a wave that's moving across. So what we have to wrap our heads around is I need to create enough speed to do a turn and to come out of that turn with speed. And that's the other most common thing, is that people go, well, every time I try and do a turn, I end up getting swallowed by the wave.
Yeah.
And that's a very, very clear indication that someone doesn't understand the importance of the speed generating component. That's where the education for an intermediate to advanced surfer really comes in, is understanding, do I have good speed generating that is customized to that type of wave on my forehand and on my backhand? Do I understand how to do a solid bottom hand turn? So like a good held bottom hand turn. And am I able to do the variations of top turns that is right for that type of wave? So a lot of people will do the wrong turn on the wave and then go, why doesn't my snap work? I'm like, well, you're on a really high tide wave and there's no lip to snap. So like,
Yeah. And you just go off the back. I like to do that sometimes.
yeah, totally.
What about people that are a little bit like below this level? I mean, I have so many peers that are my age that are like, they've got the surfboard, they're trying to catch more waves, they're riding a fiberglass. I call it like an advanced beginner, right? What's your best advice for those people who are just trying to get past that plateau and catch more waves? Is it the board? Is it the waves? Like, what can they do to improve?
So, I mean, there's multiple factors.
Yeah.
In that is a very difficult transition from, I call it high beginner to low intermediate. And those low intermediates are people that can paddle onto their own waves. Sometimes it's a little hit and miss. They can take off on the angle and trim, and they're trying to do those kind of what I call a redirect, not a turn. Turns are done on the face of a wave like this. Redirects is where they come back the other way.
Okay.
It's a very frustrating stage because generally they're still not super, super, super confident on their pop-up. There may be one or two little mistakes that they're still making. So they're in a very vulnerable stage. I think the most important thing for people that are in that transitioning phase is really understanding the conditions of the day. So making sure that they understand what type of conditions am I in will determine what type of paddling I do, the type of pop-up that I do, the angling with my pop-up, the, acceleration, so the drop down of my chest in my paddle or the lift in my chest in my pop-up, how angled I have to be on my takeoff. So, I like to use a clock. Am I in a fuller wave where I need to be more at that 12 o'clock point into the beach? Or am I on a hollower wave where I need to be more, say I'm going right, 2 o'clock?
Are the SmoothStar queen. And, when someone goes out and buys a SmoothStar, they say, hey, I'm going to improve my surfing, or I'm going to cruise around on this thing. What should they do when they get this skateboard home and they're trying to learn how to ride it and they want to use it to progress their surfing?
So, yeah, it
Besides hire you.
It's funny because it is one of those tools where people see other people riding them and then they go, okay, I'm going to go out and get one because it clearly makes your surfing better. And then they get on it and they're like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing, and they don't know how to use it as a training tool. Now, on-land training on-land training as itself, I call it on-land training, is such an important component to development. And I think, how before we were talking about coming back to when I was an athlete, so much work. So I did snowboarding, so much work for my snowboarding on the mountain was actually done in a gym on a trampoline. So simulating movements outside of the elements. And as a coach myself, surfing is so phenomenally hard to coach. I think people think that it looks like the super cruisiest job in the world because, you get to be in this beautiful blue water and sunshine and bikinis and blah, 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 what you see on social media, which is not the case whatsoever. So there are so many variables that getting consistency as a coach when someone books in a time and that time actually has the right conditions and that person is on a wave where there's not anyone else on it and they
Yeah.
actually perform the thing that they were trying to do is it's so delayed and it takes so long that it is extremely frustrating. And there is no other training tool. As coaches, it's like, I mean, you can do video analysis, but the person has to have a filmer and they actually have to get the waves. Or you can go into a gym and practice your pop up. Like, seriously,
Yeah.
that you need more than that. On land training, and the reason why I use a SmoothStar specifically is that it is what you call a surf trainer. It's very different to the surf skates that you get out there and any types of skateboards. It's specifically designed for surfing maneuvers. That's it. And so for someone like myself that is so core to the technical components to surfing, it allowed me to remove the kind of fashion accessory component and just have a product and work with a company that was so core to surf progression and the technical components. So I always say in my classes, and I'm sure you've probably heard me say this, I say it every single time. On land training is like people go to a gym and they use a rowing machine and they simulate rowing, but they're not in a river. It's the same concept. We simulate surfing on land, but we are not in the water. Now, the reason why for a coach like myself that is so important is when you're in the water, we are so distracted by the elements. We are so distracted by the sounds and the feels of the wave, the energy of the wave, or the people around us, the winds, the temperatures, all that sort of stuff. So all those distractions are happening all the time. And when we are trying to implement something we've never done before on a wave that is very different to the last wave I just caught, your chances to progress are very minimal. So with on-land training, I can remove all of the external elements and just allow someone to listen to their body. Now, when I was an athlete, something really amazing that my coach said he really ingrained in me was that component of understanding what my body can actually do. So, how much power, how much speed, how much acceleration can my body create when I'm not relying on the wave face, or when I was a snowboarder, the mountain, the slope of the mountain, the half pipe, the jump? What can my body actually do itself? And then when I'm in those elements, so let's say the surfing, when I'm in the water, all I have to do is go, okay, well, I can either give this wave a bit more speed or I can give it a bit less. I have such good awareness of my body that it's just about giving it a little less or a little more depending on what the wave needs. We don't have, as surf coaches, that we just don't have spaces like that to be able to allow people to really understand how important our body is in surfing and how much those really subtle differences, like last week when I saw you and I was like,
My
I,
hand.
I could see all you have to do is just lift that arm that tiny bit more. But how are you to possibly bring your brain's attention to your elbow and that position and that height in that split second of trying to do a snap at the top of the wave? Like, really,
In a
it's really,
competition.
yeah.
Like, so
And
much going on.
yeah. So, but when you have such good body awareness, it's like running. When I run, I don't think about what my body's doing. I've got such good awareness of my body. It's just about, do I need to give it more speed when I'm running or do I need to give it less speed? But I know what my body's doing. I know where it is while I'm running. I don't have to look at my arms and legs. Surfing is the same. We need to have a space where we can understand what our body actually needs to do to be able to implement something a lot sooner. And that's where there's a lot of old fellas that go, I didn't have all this stupid on-land training, back in
Yeah.
my day, and we all coped and it was fine. And I totally respect that. But the amount of years that it took these people to be able to do these things and whether they actually really got there in the end was, 20, 30 years. But now we have a generation where adults are wanting to learn and progress with their surfing in a much shorter space. And so we do need to look at these external components and go, okay, what other tools are actually going to help me have a better result in the water quicker? And that's where the online training comes in. It allows you to understand your body.
It just, you don't get enough. I mean, like, I surf in Manly a lot where there's 5 bajillion people and the waves are usually pretty crap. And you just don't get enough opportunities to practice things. And so the skateboarding allows you to have many more opportunities to practice the same thing and repeat it over and over.
Yeah, exactly. And this is the thing as well, is that people go, oh, okay, well, I'll get one and I'll then practice my surfing. But you've got riding a SmoothStar or riding any kind of surf trainer or a surf skate, going from A to B. You can do that. You can ride it down the street to go get milk from the top shop or whatever, or it's using it to work on the technical components to surfing. And that's where people struggle, is they don't know how to use it as a training tool. And that's where coaches come in. So I do in my school 3 different components with on-land training. We do technique correction. So understanding your weight distribution when you're trying to generate speed. Do I want to be an accelerated speed generator, or am I stalling my speed? Understanding your positioning, where your feet are, where your upper body is, how you open up your body to allow the board to respond. Then we have wave simulation, which is where we simulate the wave that someone would like to master. So say someone's going overseas and they want to learn how to ride a particular type of wave, or in their local break, they want to learn how to do speed generating or multiple bottom top turns without any speed generating in between, or a variety of top turns or whatever. Then we can create that wave on land and allow someone to understand what their body needs to do. And then they have the ability to go and implement it in the water and just have a better result as they're doing it, because they know how to problem solve. And then we have strength and conditioning. So it's more where I get a little bit, my drill sergeant, I guess, comes back in a little bit. So I'll make someone do exercises to strengthen their legs in compression work. They'll have better core rotation and stronger upper body when they're trying to do snaps, or they're able to hold through cutbacks or roundhouse turns or deep bottom turns. So that's where we start to strengthen different parts of the body, sometimes their toes, their ankles, their calves, their thighs, their core, to be able to handle, say, going on a 10-day surf trip and not getting fatigued.
Oh, yeah. Good luck.
So there are different ways to use it, and you do need a coach to be able to help you understand how to use it as a training tool. But I swear by it. Almost all of my clients now, if they do surfing, I always do the complimentary of the on-land training, because it means I'm also not repeating myself. Like, gets quite
1,000
repetitive
times.
saying like, yep, so that angling on your pop-up, like, we've been going through this for 9 months now. I'm still saying the same thing. It's really fun, but, let's really fix that problem.
I found the on-land training is just super fun too. Like,
Yeah.
it's a good
Oh, yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, especially like being our ages, where it's like, oh my God, I get to kind of go skateboard around. I feel kind
Yeah.
of like this is fun. It's cool. And with my kids, we're all having a great time. Like, you could practice your little snaps and hacks and things like that, and all the young
No,
kids
I
are
love
like,
it.
oh, cool.
Yeah. I mean, all the kids around here are just riding them, like doing snaps onto the grass everywhere and like destroying
Yeah.
them. They're wild. But
Yeah.
so beyond the SmoothStar, everyone struggles. And I remember this period of my surfing where I was trying to ride a short board, but I was going up and down different board sizes. And, you think you'd have like a literage number, and then you'd be like, well, then this board doesn't feel the same. You know, how do you guide people in trying to select the right surfboard for their skill level? Which is an hour-long conversation, I'm sure.
I know. I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel like every question you sent me, I was like, we could probably
We
talk
could
for
write an
like a good
essay about this.
week, about each one. Board choice is a really, really good one. Board choice and understanding your local conditions and understanding what type of surfer you want to be. Those 3 really go hand in hand. People have this idea of, and let's just say most commonly, I would say that people have this perception that a good surfer is a shortboarder,
Mm,
and that really infuriates me, because it's like saying, um, a good bike rider is a mountain bike rider, you know,
yeah.
not
It's
a
different
road
kinds of bike.
and not a, BMX rider. They're completely different sports,
Yeah.
like, yes, you're on a bike. Surfing is the same. They are completely different sports. Longboarding, mid-length, and shortboarding surfing, the styles are completely different. What is required of our bodies is completely different. And the types of waves that you surf are completely different. And this really affects people's ability to pick the right board for where they're going with their surfing. So the most common one is that people think they have to drop down in size to be a good surfer.
Yeah.
That's just definitely not the case. You need to look at, firstly, what type of surf do you feel comfortable in? So, a lot of people who are learning and progressing with their surfing now as adults generally start to feel a little bit uncomfortable as it gets above a 3 foot. That kind of
Yeah.
above 3 foot, it's got that bit of energy. It needs that good paddle. We've got to have a solid duck dive. And so a lot of people I find once we get over 3 foot, that's where a little bit of hesitation comes in. So I'll go, okay, well, shortboarding requires a more powerful wave, whether you like it or not. Yes, you can ride a shortboard in small, punchy waves. You probably need to have a little bit more leaderage in your board and all that sort of stuff. But ultimately, shortboarding is, that sort of 3 to 5 foot, big arcing, nice turns, good snaps. That's really what the board is designed for. And longer boards are generally ridden in a more mellow wave, a rounder face wave. And it's about this beautiful dancing movement on a wave. You do your cross steps, you do these beautiful turns and all that sort of stuff. I think that's why it doesn't complement me very much. I am very explosive in my movements and
Same.
so I get on a longboard and it feels great, but it feels very unnatural.
Yeah.
Longboarding is also phenomenally hard. And so I think what people do is, firstly, we need to look at what type of surfer do I want to be? Am I an explosive movement surfer where I want to get good release, snaps, aggressive, get throttled a little bit, all that sort of stuff? You're probably going to lean towards being a shorter board surfer. Or am I preferring the more mellow waves, being able to dance on a wave, slow movements and things like that? You're probably going to want to start to dabble more into the longboarding. Or some people I'm okay in 3 foot and I want to do some turns, but I don't really want to surf a hollow 3 foot. I don't want a really punchy, energetic wave. I still want it to be fun. They're probably more the mid length, that kind of 6'2" to 7'2",
Seven, some
maybe 7'6", where, they want to get some cutbacks and stuff like that. And they like being in something a little bit bigger, but still not too aggressive. And they would like to be able to still surf smaller surf and not have to struggle too much. So that's where having that higher volume, having that little bit more length in the board will give them good variety. So when people are picking boards, really respecting the type or style of surfing that complements you as a person, and also understanding the types of waves that you have in the areas. Like Sydney is generally pretty fast takeoff waves. It's a pretty punchy kind of beach break waves in most of the spots. Obviously not Coleroy, but most of the waves are reasonably fast. That's why a lot of longboarders live up north at the
Yeah.
pass. Um, or they will surf sometimes freshy. Um, and go and find a more mellow spot. But generally
Yeah.
speaking, Queenscliff is really a shortboarder's wave a lot of the time. So making sure that you're riding a board that gives you the flexibility to be able to surf in a wide range of conditions in your local area is a really good idea. So that kind of, I know that that's a very long way around.
No, it's a really good it's a really good point because this woman, her name's Jazz, she wrote me this beautiful article for the blog, and she actually encapsulated exactly what you said, and I had never thought of it from that angle, but like think about the wave you're surfing first and how you want to surf it and then decide the board. And her journey was surfing through Indonesia, longboarding actually. And there are many waves in Indonesia to longboard.
Yeah.
It's not Uluwatu at 8 foot, but it's like you can choose the waves that you enjoy and find a piece of equipment that complements the way you want to surf and the places you want to be. And you don't have to stuff everyone into that box of, like short 5, 10, and 25 liters or something,
Yeah,
so
exactly.
yeah.
And, like if you look at some of the, legends in your local area, you have a look at the boards that they surf and they'll be like, you know, I've got a quiver of 5'2" fishes up to 9'2" longboards and, single fins and quads and all these different styles. And they're like what I say, I can ride almost any style of surfboard. I am predominantly a shortboarder for sure. That's what complements me. That's what I like. I like those punchy waves. That's why I'm out there. I like to kind of feel that throttle with the ocean and find that rhythm and release emotional energy, which I store all the time. So that's predominantly why I surf. But I can surf a range of boards. I can surf long boards and I can cross step a little bit. I can sometimes nose ride. I don't make it look amazing, but I can definitely do it. I've practiced it because sometimes a lot of the time when I was coaching predominantly beginners and more that lower intermediate, I was in small grovelly surf. So I was like, well,
Huh.
I may as well master longboarding. Why not? It allows me to enjoy the waves and I have a great time doing it, but I'm still at heart definitely a shortboarder. But in that question as well, once you wrap your head around those, they should be your first components to think about,
Yeah.
not thinking about, I want that board, it looks really pretty. I want to go surf a
We've
shortboard.
all done that and then found out it doesn't work.
Yeah, exactly. But then from there, also being really realistic on what you physically can achieve. You know, at my age, I'm 41 as of yesterday.
Happy birthday!
Hold on a bit, not more mature.
Not growing at all.
But being able to go, okay, if I'm learning or progressing, 30 and up, what is it my body can physically actually do? Do I have any prior injuries? Like I've had a really bad injury to my leg. So it alters my pop up. And I can only ever, I've worked on my pop up for years since my operations, but I have to pop up a specific way to accommodate for the multiple injuries I've had on one of my legs. So I can only get my boards designed to a certain width, as a certain kind of narrowness, before I start to lose that instability for my leg to come through safely. I need to keep a little bit more volume in that midsection so that it can accommodate for that instability. But then I'm very strong once I'm on my feet and I've got really good drive and I'm quite responsive in my surfing. So I need to have a board that then accommodates for the ability to be able to maneuver the board quite aggressively. I look at boards, some people will go, oh yeah, you can probably ride this. And I'll look at it and go, no, that's too narrow. I just can't. So I know
Yeah.
where my limits are. And as I'm getting older and I've got multiple injuries now in my arms, I'm having to go and change my boards more now because of the injuries in my arms that I will probably have now for the rest of my life. And I need to start to shift my boards from my really refined boards. And I don't think I will be able to get back on those again. So I need to then shift my surfing again and not be disappointed in that component. I go, this
Yeah.
is what my body can do. How do I make surfing work? Because I love surfing and I need it in my life. And it's not about me trying to be a pro surfer. It's just about me connecting with the ocean. So also really taking on that, can I actually paddle fast enough for this board? Can I actually be aggressive enough on this board? Do I actually like those types of waves? Will just help you understand generally what types of boards to more aim towards.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, are you having fun or not? And I've always kind of volumed up a little bit. And I've been around a lot of people riding very low volume boards
Mm,
because they think that's what they're supposed to do. And I'm like, forget that. I want to catch more waves
yeah.
and have more fun. And, over many, many years now of trial and error, I kind of know what I like. But I think when you're at those beginning stages of getting into actually riding a shortboard or something like that, you kind of just need to buy boards off of Marketplace and try them. And then if you hate it, get rid of it and just keep going and going until you find what you like. And it's a
Yeah. And,
process.
and having a look at where your strengths and weaknesses are. So if you're wanting to dabble in those smaller boards, go, okay, do I have a good paddle? and do I have a good pop up? They're your two first components. If I don't have a good paddle and I'm a little bit slow, I've been struggling to lock onto the waves, but when I am up on a wave, I'm trying to do turns. So, okay, I will need to go something with a little bit more volume to help accommodate for that paddle, but maybe I can go a little bit shorter and a more refined tail to try and practice those turns when I am up and see how that feels. Asking someone who actually knows what they're talking about will really help a surfer start to shift into customizing the boards for them. And the most common thing I get with ladies that I coach is they go, "Oh, I'm not good enough to know the difference between this type of fin and that type of fin." And I'm like, yes, you are, because
You'll
everything
feel
feels,
it.
we're
Yeah.
trying on moving water. Any slight movement, because it's so unnatural, we feel it. So just go out and give it a go. Give it a try. If you don't have the language for what you're feeling, like my students will call me and ask, and they'll go, "I felt this and I felt that, and I don't know whether what I'm saying makes sense." I'm like, "Oh, it makes total sense. What you're experiencing is you're actually feeling the difference of a more refined nose. So you were
Mm,
able to not bog your rail as much when you tried to do your turn." And they'll go, "Oh." So
that makes
being
sense.
being able to translate that to a coach who is able to be kind enough to give you that translation is really, really productive. But everyone will notice any slight differences you make. You just have to go and experiment.
It's all about the experimentation, especially like fins and stuff. There's so many different feelings and you just don't know until you get there. And I see people all the time on the beach, I'm like, why are you riding like an extra large fin or something? And I'm like, and they're like, what? And I'm like, yeah, that's not going to work for you. You're a small woman and like it's going to be impossible to turn. They're like, "Oh," but you just don't know. And it's very hard to get the information because when you go into the local surf shop, people are bros and they don't want to have the conversation with you.
Well, we were talking offline before about my online program, and it will be coming out soon. I know there's been a lot of people waiting for it, but there is a component in there where it talks about fins and it talks about the different types of fins, and it's really using a language that we can understand and start to translate when we're in the water. And we talk about different types of boards and volume and what is concave and, you know, what is rocker and all these sorts of things. We talk about it in a way that doesn't make you feel kind of silly for not knowing. There are so many women, and there's a section called the shopping experience. And it is giving women the confidence to go to a shop and go, okay, what advice should I be actually taking on board? And what information should I be giving? Because the most common mistake, and there are just so many clients that come to me and they're just on the wrong equipment,
Yeah.
and they go,
Yeah.
"Oh, well, I went to the surf shop and this is what they gave me." And I said, "Okay, well, what did you actually tell them? Like, this person's never seen you surf before." "Oh, I
Yeah.
just said, like I surf Manly and I surf like 3 times a week. And, I haven't been surfing that long, but, I don't know, I'm not that good, but I want to get better." And I'm going, okay, firstly, you haven't told them anything. Really, all of that information is completely
It
useless.
is not really about your surfing.
Yeah, it's really useless. And you need to go in there feeling confident with really respecting the time and effort you have put in the water. No wonder you've ended up with something that's not right for you. It's the surf shop has no idea really, and they're trying to match you with the right equipment with very little information. And there is always that component of, if you look vulnerable, they're potentially going to sell you a piece of crap because you're there to buy a
You
board. You've given them no information. They think you don't know what you're doing. So, you've ended up with that.
you ended up with a Hypto Crypto.
I'm like, about to crypto cryptos. So yeah, in that shopping experience, it is saying, okay, these are the questions you need to ask the surf shop. And this is the information you need to give them. And you need to stay firm on that information. I have been surfing this long. I surf this local break. I don't like these conditions. I do like these conditions. This is where I'm struggling. I've got a pretty weak paddle, but I'm good with my pop up. I resonate more with mid-length surfing, Steph Gilmore's mid-length surfing, when she's riding all those retro boards. And the shop will go, amazing. Okay,
Yeah.
great. Actually given me productive
Here's what you
information.
need.
Yeah, but go in there confidently. Don't go in there hesitant and feeling like you don't belong there because you give off that vibe. You need to go out there and be really confident with who you are, what your surfing experience is. And I can say, I think I'm a pretty good surfer. I think I'm a pretty competent surfer. I still have so much to work on with my surfing, and I'm okay with that. But I'm also going to be confident in what I have achieved and how much hard work I have put in. So when I go to a surf shop or my shaper, I say, look, I'm really struggling with this and it's something that I want to work on, but I'm good at this, this, and this. So let's design a board that is going to allow me to work on that type of turn or, sit in that part of the wave. And we need to do that as women in the surfing industry that's predominantly
Yeah.
men.
Yeah.
We need to
Yeah.
be that firm, strong, confident presence. Otherwise, they're not going to hold your hand.
Well, I mean, there are a few women shapers now, and I know the guy from DHD, like he's working with more and more girls. And I went up and demoed some boards from him and had a conversation, and it was such a cool experience. If you ever get a chance to do that kind of thing, it was great. And I picked up a board, went out and rode it, and it just was awesome. And I went to the factory and bought the next day that I would have never bought in 1,000 years had I gone down to the local shop and went through all the boards, like, you know.
Totally. And also, who is that board designed for? Is it designed for a woman that's between 55 and 70 kilos, or is it designed for a male that is from 70 to 90 kilos? We've got
Yeah.
to look at, and we do that. My shaper, Marcus from Weapon Surfboards, I've been with him for, like almost 20 years now. I've been having boards shaped. He's gone through both of my pregnancies, through injuries, everything like that. And my clients get boards shaped by him when they're after a custom made board. And it's amazing because what happens is I'm the coach. I've got all the footage of them surfing. And then I speak to Marcus and I'm like, this is what she is aiming towards. This is where she struggles. This is how much she weighs. This is how tall she is. This is where she locally surfs. And we actually customize the board specifically to that person's needs. And the results that the women get is they actually feel like it just works underneath their feet. And that's
Yeah.
what you
It's
felt with
magic. Yeah.
is like, this isn't so hard. It's like trying to go for a run in really tight jeans. Like, it's like
I know.
impossible.
I was riding another board that weekend at a comp, and then I rode it in the comp, then rode this other board. I was like, oh my God, it feels like I just got like some cinder blocks released from my ankles, and I'm just like so much faster. And
Yeah.
it's just crazy how much of a difference it makes. But you could spend a whole lifetime talking about surfboards.
Yeah. Yeah. But that's the thing is that there are so many variations out there. Knowing what you want the board for, it's like a pair of shoes. There are so many different types of shoes, but I want to run. So I need to actually look at runners. It's the same concept with surfing, understanding where you're going to be surfing, what you can actually physically do and achieve, like what you're aiming towards, and what style of surfer you want to be. Really respecting the fact that every single style sits evenly. There is not one style that's better than the other.
It's very true. Well, listen, G, this has been a fabulous conversation. Tell us, if someone wanted to work with you to progress their surfing, how could they get started?
So you can always email through info. We can try and get in a booking time either for Sydney or up here in the beautiful mid-north coast. I also run clinics all over the world. So if people want to come away to our trips to the Maldives or places like that, I also will have this online program coming out at the end of the year, which I'm really excited about. This has been about 1.5 years of creation. And what it allows people to do is have access to really solid and well-educated information that is catered to your needs. And it is going to be an interactive platform. So you will have exposure to me. We'll be able to talk about where you're at, but it's a learning platform. So you will have things like homework, things to work on, things you got to tick off before those interactive sessions, but it's really an education platform. We'll be working on all things pups, paddles, turns, speed, shopping, buying your surfboards, different leggies, and also the ocean wellbeing section. So really finding your rhythm in the water. And it's for beginners and intermediates, and the advanced will be coming down the track. So Really
I want to
excited.
see that. I want to see that. You tell me where to put my hands and I'll put them there.
Remember those bucket sprays,
Yeah,
Audrey?
lots of buckets, buckets, buckets. Oh, that's awesome. Thank you so much, Steve, for sharing all your wisdom with us. We really appreciate it. Check
No,
out G on chixsurfschool.com.au. And if you have a friend who would love this podcast, be sure to share it with them. That's all from She Surfs here. Thank you very much. See ya.
no worries. Bye.
Bye.